Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 446 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. This is going to be an interesting podcast. But before we get into that, we got another co-host in Krim. Good morning, Krim. How are you today?
Morning. Pretty good. I'm excited. I just went to a Japanese street festival yesterday.
Ooh.
So got to watch a parade. Got a free One Piece deck, TCG deck. Yeah.
I keep hearing people talk about One Piece. Is that a new TCG that's like mostly popular in Japan? Like, I haven't really seen anyone playing it over here. Is it from Japan? I don't really know anything about it.
It's based on the anime that started in '99, and let's just say one thing. I wasn't sure. I'm very skeptical of picking up new games, card games specifically, especially anime-based ones. But this one is the core system of this game is absurdly fun, and that's just from playing with starter decks.
Oh, well, if your game is good, that goes a long ways, I think. So that's cool. Maybe I'll try it someday.
Yeah, now that you're an anime lover, if the world is ready for that.
Now that I watched an anime, I can actually play One Piece, but anyway.
How many people on the internet know that Seth is now part of the weebdom?
I think a lot, because people have been coming into my Twitch stream and being like, "Hey, Krim told me you watch an anime now," so I think you're informing the masses that I'm now that I watch an anime.
I'm spreading the good word.
Spreading the good news. Anyway, today's going to be kind of a weird week. It was kind of a slow week. Tomorrow, we kick off Wilds of Elden spoilers. Things are going to get crazy with all that stuff. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about Commander Masters. There's been some discussion about how well it's selling, some stuff from Mark Rosewater on his blog about how they should price sets, which we want to get into that. We want to talk about some promos that were released this week, some anime stuff Richard wanted to bring up as far as new cards that are coming up. So
anime.
we're gonna be jumping around a little bit this week. But before we get into it, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit. And Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And if you're tired of all the hassles that go into buy listing your cards, Card Conduit lets you skip them with their curated service. You can send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use a sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just 2%. No matter which one you choose, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed, and you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. Also, a quick reminder to anyone looking for the video podcast, it's on its own channel now. So if you're looking for the video podcast, make sure to not look on the main channel, but on the new channel. The video will be in the article, so you can find it from there, but subscribe to the new channel if you're looking for the MTGGoldfish podcast on YouTube. Anyway,
this is episode 1 officially, right? It's a brand new one on the new site or channel. Yeah. We've all been recasted.
The origin story again.
We've been recasted. We got to watch Uncle Ben die again.
So let's start with, I guess, what is probably our biggest topic of the week, which is Commander Masters and the pricing of sets. Some comments from Mark Rosewater over on his blog. So to kind of set the stage for this, the word on the street is Commander Masters hasn't really been selling very well. There's been a lot of complaints, specifically from local game stores, about how much they had to pay for the product. You see the high prices of some of the boxes, especially set booster boxes. And it turns out that local game stores are paying like $300 or more for a set booster box of the set. So when you see them being sold for $320, $400, that's kind of just the game stores trying to like make a little bit of money, and in some cases they're just breaking even trying to get rid of these boxes. So it sounds like Commander Masters has kind of been a flop, especially for local game stores. And then there was double frustration that there was a big Amazon dump where set booster boxes were selling for like $325 on Amazon, and game stores were kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this? I had to buy all these boxes for $300 more dollars from my distributor, and now they're selling on Amazon for $325. 5, I either have to price them at $400 and try to make a little money, and my community is going to be mad because I'm selling them way more than Amazon, or I sell them at Amazon prices and kind of take a bath when you consider the amount of work that goes into it. You're kind of just breaking even or maybe even losing money. So that kind of sets the stage. There's been a big conversation about the cost of Commander Masters, and then there were a couple of posts on Mark Rosewater's blog in the past week that kind of go along with that. Richard, what are the posts on the blog, and how does that relate to the Commander Masters topic? Just so people know the context of this before we get into it.
Okay, so Mark Rosewater essentially asked for feedback on the Commander Masters kind of situation.
What a brave man. What a brave man.
I mean, he is a brave man because he probably has nothing to do with any of this and he just gets all the slacking. But essentially, they can make a Commander-focused product as the same price as a Premier set, but that would have to be at the same power levels of Premier set. Is that something you would purchase? Essentially, they're saying because the power level's higher, they need to charge more. So would you take, basically standard power level cards, which I don't even know what that means at this point because they're all Commander cards anyway. But would you take that power level at a lower price? Which I really want to translate into, would you take no expensive reprints?
Yes.
Right? Like if you just look at the reprint value, would you take less reprint value for a cheaper product?
I mean, I feel like that's definitely that power is a proxy for price, right? That's what everyone's actually talking about when we say, oh, this power level thing. We're actually talking about like how much money, how much value is in there. But before we get into it, there was another one on the Blogatog that kind of goes with this, where someone asked, like, why is the power level of a set tied to the pack price? It costs the same to print, so like, couldn't Commander Masters be just as cheap as any other set because the cardboard's cardboard, ink's ink, it costs the same. And Mark kind of explained that his reasoning was a little bit weird. It's that they make a lot of products and they want players to want all the products. So you want to keep them for different audiences and not have one really good one and some bad ones that are way better. So that also kind of ties into it. But the TLDR is, from Wizards' perspective, they do believe that power level, quote unquote, or maybe value, is inherently tied to pack prices. So Krim, sorry, with that out of the way, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I mean, that's kind of that's kind of a weird way to skirt around that you acknowledge that there's a second-hand market, right? Like a pricing and stuff like that, right? Because I don't think that's like really important at all, right? Like I mean, like why would you make a pack more expensive? The whole point of these reprints is so that you could like get these cards easily more accessible, right? Like, I don't know. I don't like the reasoning behind why they chose to make it that much pricier. As someone who, like, I'm about to drop the dreaded word, the hot button word. Being a part of the ambassador program, I do enjoy the product. I think the reprints, the cards they chose were great, but the pricing of it, dude, not too good. Why would I buy a $25 regular booster pack, like draft booster or whatever? I don't know. I don't think power level or whatever should factor into whatever you're reprinting, because if you're not supposed to acknowledge like the secondhand market and stuff like that, I don't think that you should pick and choose when you do.
So isn't this how Wizards has always done it, though? I remember memeing on, like, they would always say accessibility. And whenever they wanted to, like, talk about card prices, you can't talk about values or costs. So instead, like, accessibility would be the proxy. Like, these cards are harder to find. There's not as many of them out there. So I feel like they're doing the same thing with power here, when the real question is, like, about value and how much value you put in there. I mean, the thing is, like, the connection between power and price isn't really that strong, is it? Like, Sol Ring is arguably one of the 10 most powerful cards in Magic, and it's like $2. I think you could print a set that was full of really, really powerful cards, and none of those cards would be worth more than like $1, and it would be the hardest of flops. Like, fill it full of Blasphemous Acts and Path to Exiles and Soul Rigs, Arcane Signets. These are all like among the literal most played cards in Commander, the most popular format. And it would be a huge flop, right? Because there's no value there. So I think both from Wizards' perspective and from players' perspective, the value really matters, doesn't it? Like, am I missing it? Like, would you buy that set, Richard? Full of all the $1 staples for $100 or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, y'all are asking the wrong questions. Like, it's clear that Wizards cares about money, right? It's clear that they care about value,
yes.
right? And over the years, they've used lots of words. Desirability, accessibility, collectability. These are all proxies for value, right? And basically, if Mark were to tell the truth, he'd be like, we take as much money from you as possible, period, right? Like, they exist to make money. They're a business. And when you ask them, of course, they're not going to say it, right? They're going to give you a thing, right? It's like when someone asks you, like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, I don't know. I got to go sort my Magic cards. I'm a little busy. That means I don't want to hang out with you. But, you know, it's a nice way of saying it, right? But then you could be socially awkward and be like, oh, I can come help sort your Magic cards. Oh, you can sort Magic cards any other day. Have you used the service card convo? You don't have to sort your Magic cards, right? Like you're not getting the social hint here that, like, you know, they got something. They're just trying to be nice and they're deflecting and, like, you know, move on, right? So when Wizards says all this, it's just like, as much money as we can make from you such that you don't get upset, right? Yeah. And then there's some trade-off of, like, long-term versus short-term value, but essentially they charge more for Smothering Tithe because they can, right? They charge more for Jewel Lotus because they can. And sometimes they do give you good cards for cheap, like Blasphemous Act, right? But if they were to make a new Blasphemous Act in 2024 and it was good, they could charge you $50 and you would pay for it. Right, they just can't take a cheap card and suddenly charge you outrageous sums, right? But you know, they charge as much as we'll give them, and you know, by not buying Commander Masters, we're giving them a hint, right? We're like, you know, maybe product overload, maybe we don't want exciting old powerful cards anymore. We want exciting new cards or something, right? I don't know what it is, but unfortunately, there is some lag in the feedback. So according to Wizards, this set sold great, right? Because all the LGSs bought it up. But then all the LGSs are sitting there holding the bag now. So for them, it's a terrible experience. But it will reflect in the next set, right? The next time Wizards does a master set, LGSs may not buy anymore. And then Wizards will definitely see it at that point, right? So there's a bit of lag in the system. So maybe we're not going to get the feedback for another couple sets.
It is a wild system. I didn't realize that local game stores basically just order in the blind before the set's previewed. So they have to just go on like, oh, past master sets sold really well, so I'm going to order a bunch of it. And you got to base it on that. And then there's no like return mechanism. So if the set doesn't sell well, it's not like you can just send it back to WotC or to the distributor. You're just kind of stuck with it. So definitely a risky system, especially when margins are already really low at local game stores. Do you think Wizards will learn? So we're going to get another Masters set, definitely. We're getting one a year these days. Do you think next year when we get Double Masters 2024, Commander Masters 2, whatever it happens to be, do you think it looks different? Price-wise, set-wise? Or I always wonder, like, with these questions about, like, feedback and stuff, how actionable do you think it actually is? Or when it comes down to it, is all that really matters the numbers rather than what we say? Kind of like I remember us talking about when we switched from like Moto videos on standard on the YouTube to Arena and everyone complained about it, but people kept watching. So in some sense, the feedback was like, okay, like I get that some people really don't like this, but if everyone's still watching, it's really not that big of a deal. And then eventually people were okay with Arena. Do you think Wizards is kind of like that too, where like all they actually look at is the sales data and all of the things that we say and the complaints on social media is just kind of noise that they block out?
I mean, I think they definitely take some of it into account, right? I think it has to, but I don't know if that exactly changes how much it's going to cost next set. Because like Richard has a very good point, right? Like it's going to be a bit delayed, right? I mean, if this set still sold well, right, to Wizards, then it'll probably still be a bit pricey. Like I think they'll make it maybe a little bit cheaper, but it'll probably still be pricey.
Yeah, I think Wizards probably learned something from this. I don't know what it would be, but there's like a lot of theories why we don't like Commander Masters, right? Is it product fatigue? Is it being followed? It's following up Lord of the Rings, which is like one of the first times that Wizards did something like that. Like maybe we're all reading about Post Malone's $2 million ring rather than buying Commander Masters cards, right? Or maybe it's 2023 and every set comes with new Commander staples why drop $50 for an old staple when I can drop $50 for a new staple? Like I don't know what it is, right? But there's a lot of factors at play. But I'm sure Wizards is thinking about it. But does this mean they'll make products cheaper? No, right? If you spent $1,000 on Magic cards this year, next year they want you to spend $1,500, right? So they don't want you to go backwards. So whatever you spent this year, right? They're trying to get more money from you next year, and in a gradual manner that's not a slap in the face, right? Like if you spent $1,000 this year and they try to get $20,000 from you next year, you're gonna be like, what the heck? Right? But if you're like, oh, $1,100, that's just like 30 cents more a day. That's not bad, right? And then they'll just ramp you up, right? And yeah, so I don't know, right? Whatever the strategy is to make more money from us next year, whether that be more masters or maybe they reduce the price of master sets but release more or something, right? Or maybe they charge you for another, maybe they like 3 serialized cards next year. I don't know. Maybe Post Malone just bankrolls Wizards, right? I'm not sure, but they're trying to make more money every year. So whatever the right way to do it.
The Wizard of the Coast.
He gets his own 1-of-1 card.
You know what? You know what's nuts? So for one collector's box, you could buy 4 Tier 1 Pokemon TCG and One Piece TCG decks. It's so nuts to me. Like I always forget how expensive like this hobby is.
I mean, how much is one of the decks in those games? Do you have a rough idea what a deck costs?
Pokemon. Okay, so like outside of one deck in One Piece where they made, so One Piece has a card, an alternate art of every card, so that there's always a dirt cheap version that's easily accessible. So except for one card in the game, which was like they gave away as a tournament winning, but they had like, I guess that was a mistake, and that's the only one in existence that they've done. Every card in this game and tournament winning since then has an alternate art, right? And so like one of those decks is like maybe $90, and then Pokemon around the same, like $110-$100. So I always forget just how expensive this hobby is.
So to go back to the original question, actually, no, first, do you think there's just a cap on the amount of money Magic players have? Because that's one of the things I've been wondering. We know that Lord of the Rings was the best-selling set of all time. In some sense, is it just foolishness on Wizards' part to like print the literal best-selling set of all time, have articles go up about how they made $100 million already on the Lord of the Rings set since it released a month ago or something, and then also expect the same community to have money for a very high-priced master set? Like, is that just... Do we just have a total, is there like whatever, $1 million, let's choose a number that the total community has to spend each year, and we just choose which sets to divide it up between, and we spent most of it on Lord of the Rings, so of course we're not going to have as much money for, for the next set? Like, is that what's happening here?
Just proxy your money. Just proxy your money.
The government does not like that.
Accept monopoly money.
And print some more. Like of course everyone has limited money. Like,
wait, why doesn't the government want us to proxy money? I don't understand.
Krim, if you buy proxy money, I'll take your proxy money.
Oh shoot! Okay. What do you want to value your fake money at? Just Richard hands people bills with his face on it.
So actually, I know we're joking around, but actually we can definitely spend more money. Well, some people can spend more money, right? Because theoretically, you don't max out every dollar onto Magic the Gathering. You have like savings, or you have money for other hobbies.
God.
Whatever,
rent,
right?
Rent.
Yeah, rent.
You foolish
maybe rent is essential. But like theoretically, I put money into mobile games or something, right? Theoretically, Wizards could wrestle that out of my hands. Right? They can wrestle my PS5 money away from me or something.
No, they got you. The gotcha
They gotcha'd me? Yes.
Yeah.
But, there is, like, I could cut a Starbucks coffee or something and buy a draft booster, right? So theoretically, they can squeeze money out of people. But in reality, people are like, I spent, like, $2,000 this year. Maybe that's not wise. Maybe I shouldn't spend more, right? So...
Yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness, we probably just... I think it also has, now we're starting to see the fact that like every single like set, there's a lot of sets, right? So now people are just getting lost in the sets too. So I think that's got to be a little bit of it, right? Like people are still celebrating like, you know, Lord of the Rings. How many people even know, like from a casual sense, outside of the enfranchised player, that Commander Masters came out?
Yeah, there are a lot of sets which are, in some sense, they got to be cannibalizing each other a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That the people are dividing their money between more products. Some people maybe, I guess, are putting in more because Wizards does keep making more money year after year. But some people are just, you have a Magic budget and you're dividing that between more products and spending the same amount as you would have is just split up in a different way. What do you think about the actual question that we were trying to answer at the beginning of this? Like, Master Set at standard set power level at standard set prices, is that better or worse than what we have currently? Like,
Why
would that
wouldn't
be
that
something
be better?
I mean, because
Master
then
power level sets.
no.
Standard...
No. So the master set would be standard power level and standard
Oh.
prices.
Terrible. Why would wait? Hold on. So then you would just never get. Why would you do that? That's the other direction. Then you would never get a Jeweled Lotus reprint. You'd never
Right.
get Fierce
So very
Guardianship,
unhappy
right?
with Commander Masters, Krim.
Yes, I mean,
the price of staples wouldn't come down as much, right? Like your expensive cards would remain expensive because they can't be fitted into these sets.
Yeah, the closest thing we've seen is probably something like Conspiracy, maybe some of those supplemental products they're not master sets, but they are supplemental sets that are sold at the normal prices. And if you look at those sets, they usually have a few good reprints. I think Doubling Season was in Battle Bond or something. So there'll be a handful of like high-end reprints, but it also would not be like we see in Commander Masters, where there's a bunch of cards that are $50+, some $100 cards, tons of $20 cards. Like the power level would be a lot lower. I feel like the current system's better than that, right? Like, what's the point in printing a master set if you're not going to reprint the good things? And in defense of this set, as much as people aren't buying sealed product, it has really brought down prices of singles. Like, it lost maybe in some of the shuffle. Like, a lot of really powerful and expensive cards are way cheaper than they were a month ago. Like the Medallion Cycle, instead of $30, they're like $10. And that's really across the board. Fierce Guardianships, like $35 now. Like many staples are like half price because of this set. It doesn't make it feel better to buy a box or make it more wise to buy a box because there's also a lot of bulk rares and whatnot. But there's a lot of cards that dropped a ton in price. So I feel like the set did serve a purpose for the community, right? Even if it's not worth cracking a box of, like, it is making these cards cheaper.
Actually, not all the cards. Did you know that Zetalpa is still like 25 cents?
Still 25 cents.
So, I was just waiting till Zetalpa got to around 5 cents, and then I would pick them up,
So there's a third option, which is what Krim alluded to. What if you just release Commander Masters as is, but charged standard prices for it?
Yeah.
It costs Wizard the same, to print the cardboard, to distribute it, to whatever. It's literally the same cost to them. Yes, they make less money, but why can they not drive the price down further?
Wait,
like, why do these expensive cards need to remain expensive? Like, they're old cards. They're not even new cards. So why don't the old cards over time just go down in value so that you can spend your money on the cool new cards, right? Like, what is wrong about that?
Is that necessarily going to mean that the set will sell less, though?
Yeah, it'll sell more, but maybe you make less profit. I don't know, right? I don't know what the numbers would be, right? But there's a world where you make less profit, or there's a world where you make more profit because you sold more. But they're kind of diluting their reprint equity for that, right?
Well, how much was a Lord of the Rings booster? It was like
a little more than a standard set, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't standard set prices. Maybe 150, 180. Was it in that range? I could be wrong, but I think it's a little bit more than standard prices, but not near Masters prices.
Then so let's just say, so the average box is what, $100, right?
That's kind of the traditional,
right?
Yeah, $100 roughly for a standard set.
Then I would probably say, at the very least, whatever they're at now, it can't be that price, right? Because that price is absurd. But what if you split the difference and then you move it somewhere around like 130, 140 a box, 150 a box, right? Which would then turn every pack into about, instead of like $3, or like $4 into about like maybe $6 or $7, $8, right? Because people were I think people would buy it around then. And if like I get it, if you're gonna just be a business, whatever, and I get it, right? Like, oh, we're a business, so money, yada yada yada. Then like, yeah, I mean, that's still decent, right?
I feel like this. I mean, it would be decent. Is this not just going to a monstrous capitalistic company and being like, hey, out of the goodness of your heart, why don't you take one for the team and make way less money because we would like cheaper cards? Like, I feel like it's so idealistic. Like, it's capitalism that you're supposed to, beat them with a pool cue to get all the change out of their pockets. That is the whole point of our system.
This is the arena economy changes, where they do a bunch of changes. At the end of the day, they make the same amount of money, but they shift the feels bad around. Right? So it feels bad to spend a lot of money on a product of old cards. Like, you're just buying reprints. Why do I have to spend so much money for reprints? So what you do is you make this product cheaper, and then your Lord of the Rings set can be the one that's like overpriced, right? Because I don't feel bad spending more money for Gandalf because Gandalf is special, and Gandalf is like not Wizards IP, so I understand I gotta pay a tax to the Lord of the Rings estate or something. Or like, there's less mental gymnastics you have to go to justify like, oh, this is a brand new, the One Ring card. It's so powerful, it deserves its marked up price. Versus this card I've been playing with since forever. I remember when it was $5, but now I'm paying $50 for it, and I don't want this old card. So yes, Wizards doesn't need to make less money, but they can like shift the things around so that they make the same amount of money, but you're excited to spend your money versus begrudgingly expending your money, even though it's the same amount of money you spend all the time.
I think the other thing with that is just like, so if you printed Commander Masters for $100 or $150, that means all the cards in that set will drop a lot more in price. Do you think Wizards is okay with that? Because I feel like, isn't Wizards' incentive to keep prices of cards as high as possible without the community revolting and mutinying, essentially? Because that means they can sell Commander Legends with Jeweled Lotus, and then they can sell Commander Masters, and then a year from now they can sell something else with Jeweled Lotus. When if you just like put it all out there and make it $5, then that's kind of off the table. Like, isn't that Wizards' business model essentially trying to keep prices high, but not so high that we actually quit the game? Isn't that their goal?
Do they have too many of those? It's like a commander deck, right? You want all your good cards, but maybe Wizards has a 200 card deck at this point, and they can afford to cut some of these cards and lower the price to, like, it's not like give a freebie to the community, but like to encourage like different decks or encourage new players or things like that, right? Like, I feel they actually have too many expensive cards, and that, we often say that, oh, there's not enough products to reprint all these cards to bring down the price, because each product doesn't bring down the price enough. And then the result is they got to make like 8 million products, and no one has the time for that. So they could just more dramatically reduce the prices. So, they can't do this for every set, but would it kill everyone if Jeweled Lotus and Smothering Tithe was like $10? Like, I don't think so.
Why not make this like make the premier set like $8 a pack, and that's still more than a standard pack, right? Why is there one pack that is $8, or Modern Horizons 3 or whatever 2 was like $9-10, right? When it was fresh, hot off the presses. And then then on top of that, sure, like you do that set sold well. Why is this one $20-some a pack?
Because it has twice as much value in it than Modern Horizons does. Like, I think that actually is just Modern Horizons the answer.
Had fetch lands, it had Ragavan, it had a lot of cards in there, right? It had Archmage's Charm, reprint, stuff like that, right? So, like, I don't know. I don't see why it matters. Again, the weird power level thing where it's like power level determining the price of the pack is kind of weird.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, I think the absolute price matters. Like, if they just threw in, $20 more of EV, I don't think anyone would care.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they would have to do something extreme, like put in duels, like, or something like original duels. But it's just the fact that a draft booster box costs $250, like, you balk at, right? You're like, what? That's kind of ridiculous, right? So they could keep adding value to it, but I think ultimately you just want to reduce the price to make it look cheap, because the majority of players don't buy this to like sell back the cards. They kind of just buy it and
What are you
keep the
talking
cards
about?
in their collection, right?
Don't you know the biggest card gamer fallacy like ever? Like, it's like, oh, look, I opened $100 card. Great. Would you sell it? Why would I do that?
I mean,
it could go up in price.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I remember someone on Twitter, there was a conversation about the cost of doing like the limited open at MagicCon Vegas, and it was like $250 or some high price. And there was a big debate over like, was that too much? Is it too little? And there was one person that just said like, it's too much for me because I don't have $250. And it sounds really cool and I'd love to do it, but I just don't have that amount of money. So I think the absolute price does end up mattering, because there's some people that just don't have $325 that they can realistically spend on Magic, as much as they would love a box of Commander Masters, or as much as they would love the new Precon, but it's selling for $140, and they just realistically can't do that. So I think you're right, the absolute price does matter. I mean, I think the ideal outcome is kind of what Krim was saying about One Piece. I don't know how we get Wizards there. I feel like so much of these issues are tied to the fact that Magic has been around for so long and doing things in one way with one business model for so long. But in the ideal world, right, there's like super cheap versions of Jeweled Lotus that sell for $5 and anyone can play them. But then there's also these super expensive versions that have whatever card treatments and cool foiling or whatever that are selling in very expensive products. Like, that's the win-win. Like, Wizards in theory makes a ton of money selling the expensive ones to the whales, but there's the cheap ones for everyone to play with. I just don't know how we get Wizards to that point. And my concern, like, I would love to see Commander Master sell for $100. My concern is that argument's just a non-starter for Wizards. I feel like if I went to Wizards, like,
But
hey,
it's
buddy,
not
just
$100.
cut your prices by, to 1/4 of what they currently are. Like, I feel like they would just laugh me out of the room. So I feel like when we're having these conversations, it's not that I don't want the cards to be cheaper. It's that I feel like we're going to win more if we have a realistic argument for Wizards rather than just make it cheaper because I want it to be cheaper.
I can't believe that's not realistic, because I still think like $180 a box, like Lord of the Rings prices, is a lot, right? Like, and remember, this is coming from like, I am probably the least likely person to buy a box. You're the person that buys the most boxes here.
It's true.
I buy singles. I'm sorry. That's where I spend my money. I know what I want. I'm going to get what I want, right? Like, so I don't know. I mean, I still like it, like a price that would make me want to splurge on boxes. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Literally re-released their original sets at $70 a box. like they're
Yeah.
like at Pokemon boxes are about $70 to $90. Same with One Piece. I don't like, every card game is has cheaper boxes almost. And like, so like, I get it. Magic has the premier sets, and I want Magic to have these cool premier sets and like boxes and stuff. But like double that's $180. That's still a lot. How is that laughable? I guess is the question, right? Like,
I mean, those card games are the perfect example of success, because Pokemon does not need to maximize its profits on its card game, right? Like, ideally, we don't want Wizards to keep making more money from us, right? Because we don't want to spend more money, obviously. So the easiest way is to find other TCG players, get them to spend the money. So new TCG players, right? So that would be Lord of the Rings, right? Get new people into the game. You can take their money, make more money without taking money from me. But ultimately, you can take the Pokemon strategy where you don't even need to be a TCG player, right? I make money from people watching the cartoon. I make money from people buying the plushies. I make money from whatever, right? Like, I make money from tons of ways. So the cards are just there for you to, become enfranchised and then spend money.
You mean those plushies?
Yeah, right? Like, those are very profitable, right? You don't need to like extract 50 more cents out of the booster pack price, right? You can just make more money by selling merch, or you can make more money by making people watch Detective Pikachu or something, right? Like, there are lots
a good
of
movie.
ways. Yeah, so I don't want Wizards to take more money from me. I want Wizards to make more money by taking money from other sources in the world, and there's a lot of sources in the world, right? So
It's okay.
I think
the Netflix show will do that.
Does it?
Like, yeah, the Netflix show, like Arcane, right?
The Netflix show.
made League of Legends lots of money without having to extract people from their, from the actual video game or something, right? They didn't have to charge more money to play League of Legends. They made it with another new revenue stream. So that's what I want Wizards to do. Not take my money, but get other people's money, essentially.
Doesn't Universes Beyond work against that goal? I was thinking about this week, that like, if you look at how Hasbro manages stuff, like they have some franchises, they manage like Transformers, where it's like, we have this brand, we're going to throw it on lunchboxes, make movies, make plushies. And then they have some franchises that are like Monopoly, where Monopoly, you have this game and they just kind of rent out that name and like make NFL Monopoly, Fortnite Monopoly. I feel like Magic is going the Monopoly direction with the Universes Beyond. Like, a few years ago, it felt like they were trying to make a Netflix show and trying to do the Transformers thing, and Planeswalkers would be the superheroes. But I almost feel like they did a 180, and now the plan is not to do that with Magic, because the Universes Beyond stuff, I think, makes that harder, because it kind of like diminishes the flavor and the lore of Magic itself to some extent. So I feel like now they're just kind of like renting out the game system to all these other IPs. So is it still realistic to do a TV show and sell plushies if your best-selling sets are Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy and not Jason Chandra?
It's so funny to hear Seth mention Final Fantasy. All these IPs.
I'm an anime fan now. I watched Death Note, Grim. I watched Death Note. Anime. And I am the real Dr. Anime. Move over to me.
Yeah, exactly. You are apprentice anime right now, but you're on your way. I think that, okay, yeah. Maybe that makes it a little weirder, but I do still think that there's a world where you could easily make that happen, because the core system behind everything is it's multiverse. In the year of multiverses, I don't think anything takes away from it. I don't think that you can't still have all of that, the Netflix shows and whatnot, right? And also have Universes Beyond, because I love Universes Beyond. I mean, they like Richard's about to prove how much he loves Universes Beyond when Final Fantasy comes out. So I personally think you can have all of that, right? In a multiversal world, it doesn't break the immersion or ruin anything.
I've given up on Wizards IP. I'm like, especially when we're doing a Western set. I'm like, I don't want to see. Whoa. Like, just hit me up with the Red Dead Redemption or whatever, right? Like, there's some proven good IP in this domain. Just hit me up with it. Now that it's a reality, I have that expectation. Like, for example, if I told you we were doing fantasy RPG Magic the Gathering set, you're like, get that noise out of here. Give me Final Fantasy set, right? Give me, like, whatever. Like, we've set this expectation, so I'm already not excited. Like, it's hard to make your own IP, and there's growing pains with it, right? But now that you've given me like dessert first, I just want dessert. Like, I don't want my vegetables anymore. So give me Final Fantasy, give me, I don't know, whatever the hot new thing is. Give me Street Fighter, give me Warhammer. Like, do you want to see Wizards, Space Marines, or do you want to see Warhammer? Do you want to see StarCraft? I'm like, you can't Richard, compete with that.
do you know the card game? It's like, I forgot the base game of it, but like they make all the anime cards, right? Like they've got like Attack on Titan. They got all these things, right? Yeah. I did not know that it was a game that just uses other IPs. I thought this was an Attack on Titan game, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what's funny? I bought those cards, and I'm like, oh, cool, Magic, I could use more tokens. And yeah, I'm buying these things, and I'm just like, I one day I was like, okay, I'll try these games out, right? And I'm like, man, this stuff would be so cool if the core system of this game actually didn't suck butt. And that's, I don't think it's exactly the worst thing either that Magic lends out its core game system to all these cool IPs. I think that's a pretty sweet thing, because now I get to enjoy all these worlds with great game design.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, and I think there's upsides to it, but I also 100% think it makes it harder to make a Magic TV show or make Magic plushies if if what everyone is buying is Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy, like I don't think you can have it both ways. I don't think you can make your game this iconic lore game and also have your best sets feature other IPs. Maybe Magic would be better if they just gave up on Magic lore. Honestly, the lore has been so up and down and controversial. Remember the War of the Sparks novel where we literally memed on it so hard they stopped making Magic novels? Remember the Chandra? And this is it's not like we have some great track record of Wizards just making this amazing lore. It's like there's good and bad and up and down. So maybe we're better off just like letting Tolkien do it, letting Final Fantasy do it, because they're actually really good at it. And we're really good at making Magic cards. So we focus on what we're really good at, which is making a fun game, and let other people do the War of the Spark novels so we don't get memed on so hard.
Yeah, I mean, this is what theoretically getting bought by Hasbro was supposed to do. Right? Like Wizards of the Coast was like a card game company. They're very focused on the card game. And Hasbro is supposed to be this like mega corp, great at making these like IPs like Transformers, or I don't even know what else, Monopoly, Mr. Potato Head, whatever we have, right? Like,
yeah.
At some point, someone of that background was put in charge at Wizards. I remember this because they're like, oh, we did such great things with XYZ about IP and we're going to do it to Magic. So theoretically, the pieces are in place, but I think they're just being driven by like short-term profits. Like in the short term, the TCG is booming, right? You can make so much money from it by just printing Lord of the Rings, Final Fantasy, etc. So let's cash in on that. But long term, that's bad, right? And just look at like Netflix, right? Like Netflix used to have everyone's TV shows, and they were the only game in town because they were the only ones that could do streaming. But nowadays, it's so easy to do streaming. Every studio, every company has their own streaming service, and they keep all their exclusive shows on their own thing, and Netflix is left with nothing. So Netflix has evolved, and they have all these Netflix exclusives now. What is the Wizards of the Coast equivalent, right? Like, you saw Lorcana. Disney's like, hey, it's pretty easy to make a card game. We'll just make a card game, right? We'll just sell our Disney characters on our own card game. And maybe the game sucks. Doesn't matter. People still buying it, right? So eventually, what if everyone moves to Lorcana? What if Lorcana's like, hey, everyone, we're Disney. We're big. Come, if you bring your IP here, we'll put you on some action figures or something while we're at it, right? We'll put you in the next MCU movie. How about that, right? Come over to our card game. And then what's Wizards going to do at that point, right?
People are saying that it's very unlikely, by the way. They want to keep it classic Disney like aesthetic. That's the reason. So yeah, I don't know. That's that's the whole Lorcana thing anyways. But
it's too Tinkerbelly for me. It just like I hope it's a great game, but it looks like a little kid's game. It reminds me of being a kid and when I liked Disney movies or whatever when I was 5 years old. Like I couldn't imagine sitting down with
relive your youth, Seth?
I couldn't imagine sitting down with a straight face in Pinocchio versus
Are you yelling
Tinkerbell
at clouds
versus
right
Mouse.
now,
Like,
Seth? Are
yeah,
you
probably
yelling
a little bit.
Y'all
but...
casting like pirate monkeys and, with the ring.
I'll be
fine.
real.
I'm an adult now.
Yeah,
Look at me tapping my cards.
Yeah.
I don't think that like I need to necessarily love the IP at its core, right? Like because I don't like One Piece. I don't like One Piece the show. Yeah.
I thought you loved every anime.
No. I know. I don't actually like One Piece. My roommate and my friend Kessler, everybody it's like, Krim, you need to watch One Piece. And I'm just like, dude.
Krim is an anime hipster. He's like, that's too mainstream. It's been going on for like too long. Dragon Ball's overrated. One Piece is trash.
I'm literally about to get a Jujutsu Kaisen tattoo. So I don't even know if I can even say I'm a hipster. What are you talking about?
One Piece sounds like it's about a bathing suit. Just saying.
I mean, I'm glad that's what you think it is. There, for all the weebs that are listening right now, we've done it. Seth, anime professor, has now found the One Piece.
All right. Any other thoughts on Commander Masters before we talk about some other stuff? We've talked about this for quite a while. Any final closing thoughts on Commander Masters? Wait.
This is the perfect transition into the anime Smothering Tithe.
Okay.
Okay, Krim, you weren't here when we talked about the anime cards.
Yeah.
That were releasing.
The Eldraine stuff?
Yeah, the Eldraine cards, okay? So there is an anime Smothering Tithe
Right.
Okay. So speaking of trying to extract money from everyone, they're trying to extract money from the weebs. And the theory is if you don't add anime cards, Japanese people are not going to buy these cards. But if you look at the card art for anime Smothering Tithe,
Yeah.
I look at it and I'm just like, Wizards has gone too far. This is not, speaking of like, does not jive with the look and feel of the game and Lorcana this. Like, what is this anime Smothering Tithe? It has nothing to do with Smothering Tithe. If you look at that art, it's just generic anime art. And I don't know. I would feel
Richard,
embarrassed to play this, right? You're like, what is
Richard.
this? Is just like low quality anime art chucked on a card that has like no relevancy to the actual thing. Like, what's the Smothering Tithe here? Like, I guess they're wearing like what looks to be like clothes from church. I don't know, right? Like, it's so. What do you think, Krim? As an anime lover, is this a pass?
There is no specific attire or wardrobe to wear that makes it anime. It's the art style, right? Like that's what we're here for. And
yes,
I will say, okay. And what's Smothering Tithe? It's smothering you with waifus. That's what it is. There's the Smothering Tithe. Okay, I am, and let me tell you something. God damn it, Wizard! I want this so bad.
What? No, Grill.
Yeah, dude. I want this. I want the greater Oromancy. Good lord, I want the Ristic
anime
Study.
a bad name. This is
No,
like,
it's not. What are you
okay,
talking
wait,
about?
Seth. As a partial to this, I guess you're an anime.
Now that you're an
what-
anime guy.
What is your impression of this promo?
So, I wouldn't play it personally. Like, I don't like the guy puking out gold art on the original Smothering Tithe. I think it's kind of ridiculous, and I would definitely stick with the original. I don't understand, like Richard was saying, why this is Smothering Tithe. Totally great with them putting anime art on stuff, because we saw with Jumpstart 2022 that it's like ridiculously powerful or popular. We saw those like random commons that are selling for like $20 just because it has anime art. So I think it's great. There's obviously a market for it. I do not understand why that's Smothering Tithe though. Like, you could really, with all these anime arts that we've seen so far, if you just shuffled art randomly from card to card, I would not know like you could do that and it would be perfectly fine. I feel like it really is
Okay,
like, even like Greater Oromancy, Ristic Study, like I guess Ristic Study has a book, so I guess that's a little bit like Ristic Study, but
so Smothering Tithe, right? The dude choking and vomiting up gold, right?
Yes.
He's dying, suffering from success, the meme, right?
Yeah.
Because he's drowning in riches.
That's perfect, right?
But how does this come?
Look at this.
Get that across.
We're talking about two very regal. Like, if you've watched anime, you know how these voice actors are gonna sound, right? And on top of that, they're going to be absurdly snobby. They're high end, like snob lords in the world of anime, and they look like they are. Like, look at the smirk and the grin, like right? Like they're about to roast my entire lifeline, right? Like this is it's totally fine. And Necropotence looks badass. Ristic Study, what?
Honestly though, Grim, tell me, like, if they took Greater Oromancy and Smothering Tithe and just swapped the art, would you know the difference? Or would you be just as hyped because you love the anime?
There's no way you would know the difference.
Yeah, look at this. Okay, so the Greater Oromancy, you have what I assume is, the Oromancer, and then the two Oromancy, which is like a sheep bee, and like, I don't know, like a deer like thingy that looks like also it could be asparagus, right? I'm not really, the point here, the creatures are not what you're here for me to analyze, okay? But the point is that, like, they've got auras around them, right? They've got bubbles and all of this magical art swirling around them. She's clearly enchanting them.
Okay, but
how is that?
So what we learned today is Krim will buy anything with anime.
Yeah,
on it.
I think that's
justification.
That's not
Any justification he can make.
That is not entirely the case here. I mean, it has to work, right? Like, I would. Okay, so the only artwork that I thought was questionable from the ones that I've seen so far, is okay. At first glance, doubling season. That's the only one.
That's the only one that makes sense to me, because it's all double. That's the one that actually I'm like, okay, I can actually see that.
It makes sense, but
it
makes me think of Gilded Goose.
Yeah, it does.
See, I think of Gilded Goose, but the thing is, it's because the border blocks off all the eggs that it's sitting on, right?
That
like
is a big
all the
pile of
text
eggs,
box.
yeah.
Right? Like that's when it's like, oh, that's very doubling season, right? Like this just doesn't look like a weird new Simic card, right? Because this is what Simic cards look like a 52-headed geese. So like but everything else makes sense. Necropotence has the dark. Okay, the ones that I would say are too similar are Necropotence and and actually no, wait, that's just two separate artworks of the same card. Never mind. The other one's not anime.
I feel like they just went and bought like an anime art pack. And then just put it on some cards.
Okay,
like,
hold on.
You know when you watch when you know when you're like a part of a fandom, right? Like you let's say you're a Lord of the Rings fan, and then someone's like, "Oh, I drew Gandalf." And then you look at the picture and you're like, this has no essence of Gandalf whatsoever. It's just some generic art, right? Like, I feel this is what happened here, where
no,
this is just like anime for the sake of anime, rather than like I have a really cool concept, you know, I want to execute it in this style or something. Like, if this was done not in anime style and like the same composition and the same whatever, you'd be like, what the heck is this? Like, what is this?
Richard, right? First off, you can't just have that whole display case behind you and not understand the beauties of yeah, it's a whole art style. Yeah, it just looks like anime art. But that's like writing it off and like saying just because it's anime, it's not cool. It's meant to be. It looks like generic. I guess you call it generic. I'm going to use that right there. But the thing is, it does look anime, and that's what it is. It's for people who just like anime looking things, right?
But couldn't you like have it the Smothering Tithe and it looks like Smothering, like something that describes Smothering Tithe?
Like Smothering Tithe.
Maybe I just don't know anime well enough. Maybe if you know anime as well as Krim, it makes sense. Maybe I'm just not on that level of anime with my one viewing
Seth,
of Death
we'll
Note.
Sit down at Vegas. We'll have a watch, right? Because it looks like that time when I was reborn as a villainess. Right, and that's the whole anime title, by the way. That whole 32.
Imagine this was on a full art playmat. Would you have any problem bringing this? Does this start being like, why is the girl blushing?
No, that's not. That's okay.
It like does not give the good vibes.
What do you? As long as rapacious dragon anime art exists, there is nothing that will be more lewd. Currently, there is nothing more lewd.
So would you use that playmat at like a Magic Con? I don't think I would. There's no
wait,
I know
unironically.
Wait. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Are you asking that because for some odd reason Richard thinks that blush immediately makes it weird?
No. It's like, so I don't think there's anything wrong with the art. I don't think it's like this art shouldn't exist. But personally, I would not feel comfortable like playing it at a big Magic Con in public. I just wouldn't want to deal with people seeing me playing it in public for whatever reason. So I don't think there's anything wrong with saying you would play it. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, gotcha, you're a whatever. But like, I'm curious, like, because I don't know. I would feel weird about it.
I mean, I don't understand because, like, look, let me tell you something. Growing up in middle school, I was very self-conscious about people knowing that I liked anime. Right? It was really weird the things that I grew up and was worried people knew that I liked, right? And now in the current year, and then I hit college, and at some point I just like put on every piece of weavery I could. And like, I don't see what's wrong with playing this at a GP or whatever, right? Like, it's not lewd. It's not like it's absurdly sexual or anything. So it's fine to me, and like, it looks fun. It just looks like having a good ass time. I want to have a good ass time.
Okay. Let's close this up. I want to make sure we're not gatekeeping anyone from using this.
Yeah.
You know, this is a perfectly fine Magic card. If you like the art, you know, it's great. If you want to put it on your playmat, that's great. I feel it's a bit out of place with the rest of the vibe of Magic, and I feel it's low effort. It's like low effort, right? Like, it doesn't show Smothering Tithe, really. Like, I don't understand why someone would be like, yes, this is the epitome of Smothering Tithe, one of our chase cards in Magic the Gathering, but Krim loves it. So maybe everyone is like Krim, and we're going to find out based on people's wallets on how these Eldraine anime cards do. Because we can tell from the price if they're popular or not. Like, the Phyrexian cards are not popular.
Really? Because I love those cards too. I guess.
No, because like your double-sided Shouldred or you don't know what it even does when it's in Phyrexian. So those are actually the cheapest amongst all versions, including like the base version, which kind of tells you that it's not desirable using Wizard's words, right? So we're gonna tell from the price of Smothering Tithe if it's more or less desirable than the base version.
And then if you do like this artwork and you don't know why you do, that means you're having an awakening. You're now understanding that you are also a weeb.
I will say these cards are going to be very popular and expensive. I don't think there's any doubt. I have zero doubt. Like, it's not my thing, but I expect there are many crims out there based on the Jumpstart ones and just how well they did. I think these are going to be really popular.
And to all the crims out there, yo, don't listen to the naysayers. This is a W.
One more anime thing, and then we probably got to wrap it up for this week. But did you see, so they announced a bunch of promos this week for a bunch of different things. So there's like a new Borderless Reliquary Tower that's going to be for some Command Fest in October. There's a bunch of Eternal Weekend promos, the Old Border Mental Misstep and Dragon Rage Channeler. Most interesting though, I'm so jealous of the Japanese. You get so many cool promos in Japan. They just announced today these new Planeswalker friendly match promos. That's a Phyrexian Rager, new braids, and then the Liliana in, this is anime art style, right? Richard, I know you're a huge Liliana fan. What do you think of this anime Liliana? Would this make it in your modern Jund deck? Is this the...
Richard, love it. Because it's not generic art. It's Liliana, right? You're like, it's Liliana reimagined as an anime character. Like, imagine if they just had the Smothering Tithe art on Liliana. You're like, what the heck is this? What is this Liliana obvious about, right? But this one has the Liliana stuff going on, so I love this card. Now,
dude,
better than the Final Fantasy art? Right? No, but that one's not cheap. This one might be attainable, so...
What about that braids too? God, look at that. Okay, I'm sorry. Like those eyes of the braids. I'm like, yeah, I'll sacrifice myself to braids, whatever you need.
like to me, they put some effort into this. So this is the crossover anime that I love, right? I don't like the, what is this art? You'll never be able to tell. Like I could show you this picture and you can immediately tell me it's Liliana. You can probably guess this is braids if I gave you like a multiple choice question. But Smothering Tithe, you have like no shot, in my opinion, of figuring out what it is, unless you're Crim. Crim is clairvoyant. He knows.
And in Wizards' defense, it's got to be easier to do it with iconic characters like Liliana than braids than Smothering Tithe or Insurrection or like some of the Aggravated Assault. Like, it's a little bit harder to get across, right? Like, there's a lot more subjectivity in some of those, so... I don't know. The promos are sweet, though. I just wish they would come over here sometime. I don't know how I would ever get one of them, but they are cool.
What about the Master, like Master Duel? Like they did something with them that gave like, you know what I'm talking about, right? The cards like Earthquake.
There's also there's more Japanese promos. They have Dual Masters art. Only available in Japan. Earthquake, Sarah Angel, Pouncing Jaguar in a Crim just for you, Nicole Bolas. I assume you're all over that Nicole Bolas, right?
Yeah, there it is. That's what we want to talk about. That Bolas is sick, dude. Holy hell.
It's got the frame break thing going out like right off the card, essentially. It does look really cool.
Like, yeah, like the art for that Bolas is mainly why we're here today. Everything else, I really don't care about. Like, where am I going to play the Jaguar? I mean, Sarah Angel looks cool, but like, yeah, whatever. And that Earthquake is actually kind of nice, so I do like that one too. But that Bolas is clean. Yo, Japan, you've got some banger promos. If any of y'all have that Bolas or you know any of that stuff and you don't need it or that Lily, you know, send it my way. The Weeb King appreciates it.
And that's another one like Liliana that looks very recognizable, right? It's anime style, but you instantly know it's Nicole Bolas.
Well, the frame effects are amazing. Like they haven't ever done this effect, right? It's the frame break from Marvel Snap, right? But his wings are going under the mana symbols and everything, and then the other wing is going above the black border. Like, it's amazing.
They just did this with Commander Masters.
Really nice. I was gonna say they just did 10 frame break special treatments in Commander Masters too. So maybe we see more of them in the future because I think Wizards is. I wonder if it is because of Snap. Do you think it's Wizards trying to get on the frame break thing? I mean,
there's only so many ways you can make special borders, right? I'm surprised they haven't done it before, though.
Magic Snap.
Magic Snap.
Anyway, I think that pretty much brings us to the end. Oh no, another week. Are we doing Fishmail or are we skipping again? I feel like we've skipped Fishmail like 3 weeks in a row.
Don't we have time?
We can toss in a
Maybe
quick
sneak
question.
in one quick one because next week we got spoilers. So yeah, let's sneak in
next
one
week
quick
is not
fish
gonna be
mail.
Fishmail. Okay, here we gotta talk about modern. Chris, Beer of Nylea. Why didn't Flame Rift catch on in modern? It was a staple in Legacy Burn, but I've never seen one cast in modern. And Flame Rift is a 2-mana sorcery. Flame Rift deals 4 damage to each player.
I think it must just be the card pool. Actually, I don't even know. Does it see play in Legacy anymore? I don't even think it sees Legacy play. I think it's kind of been like power creeped out.
I think it's old in the old days. You would
in the
see
old
it.
days.
Yeah.
But Legacy Burn, you have a what's the card that lets you sack 2 mountains to deal 4 damage?
Fire
Like
Blast.
Fire Blast,
I think because of cards like Fire Blast in Price of Progress, you can get away with dealing 4 to yourself more easily than you can in Modern. I think in Modern, like taking 4 when you're trying to just Bolt and Boros charm people is pretty risky. When in Legacy, you can almost play it like a combo deck where it's just like Price of Progress you for like 6, untap, Flame Rift, Fire Blast, game over on the spot. So I think it's just card pool differences mostly. Although I also thought it would see play in Modern Burn when it first came out, and it just hasn't really made it. So I think it's just too much risk though.
Like what's the 2-drop? The Eidolon of the Great Rebel.
Yep.
I have killed so many Burn players with their own Eidolon. like it is not like Burn is actually like very, very tight. Like you're just like edging out people. And Modern is kind of fair. Burn deck is kind of slow. So people are hitting you with stuff. So I think Seth is right. You don't want to take the 4 damage. Why don't we see it in like Grixis Shadow or something like that? Like, is that like we just don't need the burn? Like, there's no point to it. You're just chunking people for 13 or whatever at a time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't care. But like, that was the only home I could think of where you actively want to deal yourself damage. But 4 is a lot.
4 is a lot. And you got to think of what you would replace it with too. So you'd be taking like probably a 1 mana 3 damage spell out to add this in. So you're like paying 1 more mana to get 1 more damage, but you also have to take 4 to the face, which is just a little sketchy in Modern.
Yeah. All right. So thank you to Beer of Nylea for sending that question in. If you have future questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 446 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard Grimm, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about Wilds of Eldorade spoilers and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. Until then, have a spectacular week, everyone. And this is a crew signing out.